Question 1. Redistricting and gerrymandering in a high-stakes environment where multiple challenges exist in redistricting efforts. A state legislature redraws congressional district boundaries after a decennial census. The new map creates significantly irregularly shaped districts, and statistical analysis shows that it disproportionately favors one political party, reducing the competitiveness of elections. A group of voters challenges the mapping, arguing that it violates their constitutional rights. Under which legal precedent would the court most likely evaluate this claim? A. Baker v. Carr, 1962. Political question doctrine. B. Shaw v. Reno, 1993. Racial gerrymandering. C. Rucho v. Common Cause, 2019. Partisan gerrymandering. D. Shelby County v. Holder, 2013. Preclearance requirements. Answer: C. Rucho v. Common Cause, 2019. Partisan gerrymandering. Explanation: C is correct. In Rucho v. Common Cause 2019, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that partisan gerrymandering claims present political question that is non-justiciable in federal courts. While excessive partisan gerrymandering may seem unfair, the court stated that the Constitution does not provide clear legal standard to evaluate it, making it an issue for state courts and legislatures. A is incorrect. Baker v. Carr, 1962, established that malapportionment claims unequal district populations are justiciable under the Equal Protection Clause, but did not specifically address partisan gerrymandering. B is incorrect. Shaw v. Reno, 1993, ruled that racial gerrymandering claims are justiciable, but the case applies to race-based districting, not purely partisan gerrymandering. D is incorrect. County v. Holder, 2013, struck down key provisions of the Voting Rights Act's preclearance requirement, affecting racial discrimination claims but not directly addressing gerrymandering. Question 2. Election administration and procedures during a comprehensive review of a process that needs improvement. Election officials discover that a significant number of voters who registered online were unable to cast provisional ballots on election day due to discrepancies in their registration records. Some voters claim they were improperly purged from voter rolls, which federal law provides protections and procedures to prevent wrongful roll purges. A. The Voting Rights Act of 1965. B. The National Voter Registration Act of 1993 (NVRA). C. The Help America Vote Act of 2002 (HAVA). D. The Uniformed and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act (UACAVA). Answer: B. The National Voter Registration Act of 1993 (NVRA). Explanation: B is correct. The National Voter Registration Act of 1993 (NVRA), also known as the Motor Voter Law, includes provisions to protect voters from improper removal from voter rolls. It requires states to maintain accurate voter lists while ensuring that eligible voters are not removed without due process. The law mandates removal must be based on specific criteria, such as death, relocation, or felony conviction, and prohibits systematic purges close to an election. A is incorrect. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 primarily addresses racial discrimination in voting and does not directly regulate voter registration purges. C is incorrect. The Help America Vote Act, HIVA, focuses on election technology, voter ID requirements, and provisional ballot use, but it does not specifically govern voter list maintenance. D is incorrect. A Uniformed and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting UACAVA ensures voting access for military and overseas citizens but does not regulate domestic voter roll purges. Question 3. Campaign finance and election spending. While analyzing the root causes of sequential problems in election integrity, a watchdog group finds that a nonprofit organization spent millions of dollars on political advertisements influencing a presidential election. The group argues that this violates campaign finance laws because the nonprofit did not disclose its donors, under which Supreme Court ruling would such expenditures be considered protected speech, and what legal framework governs donor disclosure? A. Buckley v. Valeo, 1976. Expenditure limits and free speech. B. McCain-Feingold Act, Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, limits on issue ads. C. Citizens United v. FEC, 2010. Corporate and non-profit political spending. D. McCutcheon v. FEC, 2014. Aggregate contribution limits. Answer: C. Citizens United v. FEC, 2010. Corporate and non-profit political spending. Explanation: C is correct. In Citizens United v. FEC 2010, the Supreme Court ruled that corporations and non-profit organizations have First Amendment right to engage in unlimited independent political expenditures. The decision invalidated parts of the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, McCain-Feingold Act, that restricted spending, leading to surging dark money political contributions. However, donor disclosure requirements still apply under federal election laws. A is incorrect. Bucky v. Valeo 1976 established that expenditure limits on candidates are unconstitutional but upheld contribution limits. It did not address non-profit spending. B is incorrect. The Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, McCain-Feingold Act, aimed to restrict corporate and union election spending, but its key provisions were overturned by Citizens United. D is incorrect. McCutcheon v. FEC 14 struck down aggregate limits on individual contributions to candidates, but it did not change laws on corporate or non-profit spending. Question 4. During a critical transition period where existing processes are being re-evaluated for compliance with federal and state election laws, a state legislature proposes a new voter ID law that requires all voters to present government-issued photo identification. The law includes a provision stating that voters who do not have an ID may cast a provisional ballot, but their vote will only count if they return within 5 days. Ballot identification. Advocacy groups argue that this requirement disproportionately affects elderly and low-income voters who may lack access to transportation or the necessary documentation. Considering the U.S. Supreme Court's rulings on voter ID laws and the Voting Rights Act, what legal challenges could be raised against this law? A. The law violates the 15th Amendment by imposing a racially discriminatory burden on voters. B. The law is unconstitutional under the 24th Amendment because it imposes a financial barrier akin to a poll tax. C. The law is likely permissible under Crawford v. Marion County Election Board but could be challenged under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. D. The law is automatically unconstitutional because it treats provisional ballots differently from regular ballots. Answer. C. The law is likely permissible under Crawford v. Marion County Election Board but could be challenged under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Explanation. Voter ID laws have been the subject of significant legal scrutiny. In Crawford v. Marion County Election Board 2008, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld Indiana's voter ID law, reasoning that states have an interest in preventing voter fraud even in the absence of widespread evidence of fraud. However, under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, plaintiffs can challenge voting laws that result in denial or abridgment of the right to vote based on race or minority status. The argument that this law disproportionately affects elderly and low-income voters could be evaluated under the Brovich v. Democratic National Committee 2021 framework, where the court established factors for assessing the discriminatory burden of voting restrictions. A is incorrect because the 15th Amendment prohibits explicit racial discrimination and courts require strong evidence to prove intentional discrimination. B is incorrect because courts have generally not treated voter ID laws as unconstitutional poll taxes under the 24th Amendment. D is incorrect because differential treatment of provisional ballots is allowed provided it aligns with procedural election safeguards. Question 5. While investigating a complicated issue between different states regarding election administration, a coalition of state officials questions the constitutionality of federal oversight over state-run elections. They argue that federal laws like the Voting Rights Act and the National Voter Registration Act infringe on state sovereignty. Given the constitutional framework governing elections, to what extent can the federal government regulate state election procedures? A. The federal government has no authority to regulate state elections under the Elections Clause. B. The Elections Clause, Article I, Section 4, allows Congress to override state election laws for federal elections. C. States have absolute power over their election laws, and Congress can only intervene in cases of election fraud. D. The 10th Amendment prohibits federal involvement in state elections, making federal election unconstitutional. Answer. B. The Elections Clause, Article I, Section 4, allows Congress to override state election laws for federal elections. Explanation. The Elections Clause, Article I, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution grants states the power to regulate the times, places, and manner of congressional elections, but explicitly allows Congress to alter or override these regulations. This means that while states control the administration of elections, federal oversight is constitutionally permitted. A is incorrect because the Elections Clause explicitly grants Congress the power to regulate state election laws for federal elections. C is incorrect because Congress has historically passed laws such as the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and the Help America Vote Act, however, of 2002, which impose federal requirements on states. D is incorrect because while the 10th Amendment reserves powers to the states, it does not override specific constitutional authority given to Congress under the Elections Clause. Question 6. In a high-stakes environment where multiple challenges to election results have been filed, a state Supreme Court is tasked with deciding whether it has the authority to reject a presidential candidate's electors based on allegations of fraud. The state legislature argues that only the state legislature, not the courts, can determine the validity of electors. What constitutional principles and case law apply in resolving this dispute? A. Bush v. Gore 2000 held that state legislatures have exclusive authority over electoral disputes. B. The independent state legislature theory grants state legislatures exclusive power barring judicial intervention. C. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that state courts can review election disputes, subject to federal constitutional limits. D. The Electoral Count Act of 1887 prohibits state courts from overturning election results once electors have been certified. Answer. C. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that state courts can review election disputes, subject to federal constitutional limits. Explanation. While the independent state legislature theory suggests that state legislatures have significant authority over elections, the U.S. Supreme Court has consistently held that state courts can review election disputes provided they adhere to constitutional principles. In Bush v. Gore 2000, the court invalidated Florida's recount on equal protection grounds, but it did not hold that state legislatures are immune from judicial review. Additionally, in Moore v. Harper 2023, the Supreme Court rejected an extreme interpretation of the independent legislature theory, affirming that state courts have a role in ensuring election laws comply with state constitutions. That is incorrect because Bush v. Gore did not grant exclusive power to legislatures. B is incorrect because Moore v. Harper clarified that state courts do have a role in election oversight. D is incorrect because the Electoral Count Act of 1887 primarily governs the congressional certification process, not state court authority. Question 7. As election officials work tirelessly to ensure fair and secure voting processes, a new law imposes restrictions on early voting locations and reduces the number of ballot drop boxes in urban areas. Civil rights groups argue that these changes disproportionately affect minority communities. Given recent legal precedents, how might courts evaluate the constitutionality of these voting restrictions? A. Courts will automatically invalidate the law under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. B. The law is likely constitutional unless plaintiffs can prove a significant and discriminatory burden under the Voting Rights Act. C. Any changes that reduce voting access are unconstitutional under the First Amendment's right to political expression. D. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that states have absolute discretion in setting election laws, making challenges unlikely to succeed. Answer. B. The law is likely constitutional unless plaintiffs can prove a significant and discriminatory burden under the Voting Rights Act. Explanation. Voting restrictions that disproportionately impact certain communities can be challenged under the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. However, under Yarovich v. Democratic National Committee 2021, the Supreme Court Arizona's ballot collection restrictions, emphasizing that courts must consider the overall voting system and historical context. Plaintiffs must demonstrate that the law creates substantial and discriminatory burden. A is incorrect because courts do not automatically strike down voting restrictions under the Equal Protection Clause. They assess burdens and justifications. C is incorrect because while voting is a form of expression, courts have not broadly applied the First Amendment to election regulations. D is incorrect because states do not have absolute discretion. Federal laws like the Voting Rights Act provide oversight. Question 8. When considering the legal implications of new election technology, a state introduces an AI-driven voter verification system that scans and verifies ballots electronically. While the system promises efficiency, privacy advocates raise concerns about bias in the algorithm and potential violations of voter privacy laws. What constitutional and statutory protections apply in evaluating the legality of this system? A. The Fourth Amendment's protection against unreasonable searches and seizures applies to all election technologies. B. The Help America Vote Act, however, sets federal standards for election technology but does not regulate voter privacy concerns. C. The use of AI in voter verification could violate the Due Process Clause if it leads to arbitrary or discriminatory outcomes. D. The Equal Protection Clause mandates that all voting technology be identical across every state. Answer: C. The use of AI in voter verification could violate the Due Process Clause if it leads to arbitrary or discriminatory outcomes. Explanation: The Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment ensures that voting procedures are fair and not arbitrary. If an AI-based system disproportionately rejects ballots from certain voters due to bias, it could be challenged under Bush v. Gore 2000 and League of Women Voters v. 2018, which emphasized equal access to voting. Courts may also examine whether the system aligns with HIVA, which establishes requirements for election technology security but does not directly regulate voter privacy. A is incorrect because the Fourth Amendment primarily applies to law enforcement searches, not election technology. B is incorrect because while HIVA addresses election security, it does not comprehensively regulate AI bias or privacy concerns. D is incorrect because states can implement different voting technologies as long as they comply with federal laws. Question 9. In a high-profile legal battle over redistricting, a state legislature redraws congressional maps in a way that significantly reduces the voting power of a particular racial group. Civil rights organizations challenge the maps, arguing that they violate the Voting Rights Act and the Equal Protection Clause. What legal standards will courts use to assess whether the new districts constitute unconstitutional racial gerrymandering? A. Courts will apply strict scrutiny if race was the predominant factor in redistricting decisions. B. The Supreme Court has ruled that partisan gerrymandering is unconstitutional, so all redistricting cases are subject to judicial review. C. Redistricting laws cannot be challenged unless they explicitly state an intent to discriminate. D. The Elections Clause gives state legislatures sole authority over redistricting, making federal court intervention unlikely. Answer A. Courts will apply strict scrutiny if race was the predominant factor in redistricting decisions. Explanation: In Shaw v. Reno 1993 and Cooper v. Harris 2017, the Supreme Court ruled that racial gerrymandering cases must be evaluated under strict scrutiny, meaning that the government must show a compelling interest and that its redistricting methods are narrowly tailored. If race was the predominant factor drawing the districts, the maps may be unconstitutional. B is incorrect because while partisan gerrymandering has been ruled non-justiciable in Rupcho v. Common Cause 2019, racial gerrymandering remains subject to judicial scrutiny. C is incorrect because discriminatory intent is not required. Courts assess discriminatory effects as well. D is incorrect because federal courts routinely review state redistricting under the Rights Act and the Equal Protection Clause. Question 10. As a debate over election security unfolds, a state passes a law restricting third-party groups from collecting and submitting absentee ballots on behalf of voters. Supporters argue that this measure prevents fraud, while opponents claim it disproportionately harms elderly, disabled, and minority voters who rely on assistance. How would courts likely evaluate the constitutionality of this law? A. The law is unconstitutional because it directly infringes on the fundamental right to vote under the 14th Amendment. B. Courts will evaluate the law under the Anderson-Burdick balancing test to determine whether the burden it imposes is justified by state interests. C. The Supreme Court has ruled that restrictions on third-party ballot collection are unconstitutional under Bjarovic v. DNC 2021. D. The Voting Right of 1965 prohibits any state laws that restrict absentee ballot collection. Answer: B. Courts will evaluate the law under the Anderson-Burdick balancing test to determine whether the burden it imposes is justified by state interests. Explanation: Courts assess election laws using the Anderson-Burdick test, which weighs the burden on voters against the state's justification for the restriction. In Bjarovic v. DNC 2021, the Supreme Court upheld Arizona's ban on third-party ballot collection, stating that state's legitimate interest in preventing fraud. However, courts may still assess whether the burden disproportionately affects certain groups. A is incorrect because the 14th Amendment does not categorically prohibit election regulations that impose burdens. C is incorrect because Biarovich upheld rather than struck down such restrictions. D is incorrect because the Voting Rights Act applies to laws that deny or abridge voting rights based on race, but it does not automatically invalidate all restrictions on absentee ballot collection. Question 11. In a high-stakes environment where multiple challenges arise simultaneously, a company is transitioning to a cloud-based data storage system while ensuring compliance with strict data protection regulations. What is the primary legal consideration when handling customer data during this transition? A. The company must store all data within the same country to comply with international data laws. B. Data encryption is optional if internal security measures are already in place. C. Compliance with regulations such as DDR-EPA depends on the jurisdiction of the customers, not just the company. D. The company can transfer customer data freely as long as they notify users in advance. Answer. C. Compliance with regulations such as DDR-EPA depends on the jurisdiction of the customers, not just the company. Explanation. Regulations like the General Data Protection Regulation (EDPR) and the California Consumer Privacy Act (CPA) apply based on the customer's location, not just where the company operates. This means companies must ensure compliance when processing data belonging to resident jurisdictions, regardless of their own geographical base. A is incorrect because data localization laws vary and not all require local storage. B is incorrect because encryption is often required security measure, not just an optional safeguard. D is incorrect because mere notification does not fulfill compliance requirements. Explicit consent and legal safeguards are necessary. Question 12. During a comprehensive review of a process that needs improvement, a company finds that customer service response times vary widely between different regional offices. How should management address this inconsistency while maintaining efficiency? A. Enforce a strict, standardized response time across all regions, regardless of staffing levels. B. Implement an AI-driven ticketing system that prioritizes urgent issues while balancing workload. C. Reduce customer service interactions in low-performing regions to focus on more efficient offices. D. Mandate a single communication method to reduce variation in response times. Answer. B. Implement an AI-driven ticketing system that prioritizes urgent issues while balancing workload. Explanation. An AI-driven ticketing system helps prioritize urgent customer needs while ensuring an even workload distribution, improving efficiency across different offices. This allows flexibility without compromising service quality. A is incorrect because strict standardization may not be practical due to varying staffing levels and customer demand. C is incorrect because reducing interactions in low-performing areas would negatively impact customer satisfaction. D is incorrect because using only one communication method could limit accessibility and flexibility for customers. Question 13. While investigating a complicated issue between different project teams, a company discovers that conflicting goals between marketing and product development are causing delays. What is the best approach to align these teams? A. Assign a neutral mediator to facilitate discussions and establish shared objectives. B. Have one department take priority over the other to streamline decision-making. C. Reduce interactions between the teams to prevent further disagreements. D. Allow each team to operate independently and address issues only when necessary. Answer. A. Assign a neutral mediator to facilitate discussions and establish shared objectives. Explanation. A neutral mediator can help resolve conflicts by facilitating discussions and aligning both teams toward shared objectives. This ensures that both marketing and product development contribute effectively without one team dominating the decision-making process. B is incorrect because prioritizing one team may create resentment and conflicts. C is incorrect because reducing interaction does not address the root cause of the misalignment. D is incorrect because a lack of communication could lead to continued inefficiencies and misaligned goals. Question 14. When dealing with a complex system that shows occasional failures, a company wants to improve system reliability while minimizing downtime. What strategy should they prioritize? A. Implement redundancy and failover mechanisms to maintain system continuity. B. Schedule maintenance only after multiple failures occur to maximize uptime. C. Rely solely on real-time monitoring without preventive measures. D. Require all users to report failures manually before initiating any fixes. Answer. A. Implement redundancy and failover mechanisms to maintain system continuity. Explanation. Redundancy and failover mechanisms ensure that If one part of the system fails, an alternative can take over, reducing downtime and maintaining reliability. B is incorrect because waiting for multiple failures before maintenance increases risks and prolonged downtime. C is incorrect because real-time monitoring alone is not enough without proactive measures. D is incorrect because manual failure reporting is inefficient and delays response times. Question 15. During an emergency response where multiple areas are impacted by a cybersecurity breach, what should be the organization's first priority? A. Immediately restore all affected systems without identifying the root cause. B. Contain the breach to prevent further damage before investigating its origin. C. Notify the public before taking any internal actions. D. Shut down the entire network regardless of the affected areas. Answer. B. Contain the breach to prevent further damage before investigating its origin. Explanation. Containing the breach first limits further damage and prevents escalation. Once containment is achieved, the company can then analyze the root cause and implement corrective actions. A is incorrect because restoring systems without understanding the breach could leave vulnerabilities open. C is incorrect because public notifications should follow internal mitigation efforts, not precede them. D is incorrect because shutting down an entire network might be excessive and could impact unaffected areas unnecessarily. Question 16. While managing a hybrid approach where timing issues arise between in-office and remote teams, what is the best way to ensure smooth collaboration? A. Require all employees to work the same hours, regardless of location. B. Establish overlapping core hours while allowing flexible scheduling. C. Have all meetings recorded and only require synchronous participation. D. Reduce remote work opportunities to avoid coordination issues. Answer. B. Establish overlapping core hours while allowing flexible scheduling. Explanation. Overlapping core hours ensure that all employees, whether remote or in office, have a set time to collaborate while allowing flexibility for individual schedules. A is incorrect because enforcing identical hours ignores time zone differences and work-life balance. C is incorrect because asynchronous meetings alone do not support real-time collaboration. D is incorrect because reducing remote work limits flexibility and could decrease productivity. Question 17. In a situation where resource allocation becomes a challenge due to fluctuating demand, what is the most effective approach? A. Implement a dynamic resource allocation model that adjusts based on real-time needs. B. Allocate resources evenly across all departments regardless of demand. C. Use historical data alone to predict and allocate future resources. D. Delay resource adjustments until a pattern emerges over an extended period. Answer. A. Implement a dynamic resource allocation model that adjusts based on real-time needs. Explanation. A dynamic resource allocation model that adjusts in real time allows organizations to efficiently respond to changing demands without over or under-allocating resources. B is incorrect because even allocation ignores actual needs. C is incorrect because historical data alone does not account for real-time shifts. D is incorrect because waiting too long could lead to inefficiencies and delay. Question 18. During a major transformation where existing methods are being replaced, what is a key strategy to ensure a smooth transition? A. Implement changes gradually and provide continuous training. B. Replace all systems at once to minimize disruptions. C. Do not involve employees in the transition process to avoid resistance. D. Delay training until after the new system is fully implemented. Answer. A. Implement changes gradually and provide continuous training. Explanation. Gradual implementation with continuous training allows employees to adapt effectively without overwhelming them. B is incorrect because replacing everything at once creates higher risks of failure. C is incorrect because excluding employees leads to resistance. D is incorrect because training should happen before and during the transition. Question 19. When implementing backup procedures across various polling stations, what is the most effective contingency plan to ensure smooth voting operations? A. Have emergency paper ballots available in case of electronic voting machine failures. B. Rely solely on electronic machines, assuming failures will be minimal. C. Close polling stations experiencing technical difficulties and ask voters to return later. D. Delay the election until all technical issues are resolved. Answer. A. Have emergency paper ballots available in case of electronic voting machine failures. Explanation. Emergency paper ballots prevent long delays and ensure all voters can cast their ballots even if electronic machines fail. This maintains voter confidence and prevents disenfranchisement. Option B is incorrect because relying solely on electronic machines ignores the risk of technical failures. Option C is incorrect because closing polling stations and asking voters to return later creates accessibility issues. Option D is incorrect because elections cannot be delayed due to technical issues in most jurisdictions. Question 20. During a comprehensive review of a process that needs improvement, election officials identify long wait times at polling places. What is the best approach to address this issue? A. Increase the number of voting machines and polling staff at high-traffic locations. B. Limit the number of voters at each polling station to reduce congestion. C. Reduce early voting to encourage voters to participate only on election day. D. Eliminate in-person voting and require all voters to submit mail-in ballots. Answer: A. Increase the number of voting machines and polling staff at high-traffic locations. Explanation: more voting machines and staff help speed up the process, reduce wait times, and ensure a smooth voting experience. Option B is incorrect because limiting voters per location creates unnecessary barriers. Option C is incorrect because reducing early voting increases congestion on election day. Option D is incorrect because eliminating in-person voting removes voter choice and may not be feasible for all voters. Question 21. In a scenario where efficiency decreases across multiple departments, a company notices that its workflow automation tools are not being utilized effectively. What is the best strategy to address this issue? A. Conduct training sessions to ensure employees fully understand the tools. B. Remove workflow automation tools to simplify operations. C. Allow only senior management to access automation tools. D. Replace the current automation tools with manual processes. Answer: A. Conduct training sessions to ensure employees fully understand the tools. Explanation: training employees ensures that they fully understand and utilize automation tools effectively, leading to improved efficiency across departments. B is incorrect because removing automation tools would reduce efficiency further. C is incorrect because limiting access hinders operational efficiency. D is incorrect because manual processes increase workload and down operations. Question 22. During the introduction of new methods where coordination between teams is essential, a company finds that employees are resistant to change. What is the best approach to gain their support? A. Clearly communicate the benefits of the new methods and involve employees in decision-making. B. Implement changes without informing employees to avoid resistance. C. Require employees to adapt to the new methods immediately without additional guidance. D. Punish employees who resist the new methods. Answer: A. Clearly communicate the benefits of the new methods and involve employees in decision-making. Explanation: effective communication and involvement in decision-making help employees understand the benefits and feel engaged in the transition, increasing adoption rates. B is incorrect because keeping employees uninformed leads to confusion and pushback. C is incorrect because forcing change without guidance lowers morale and productivity. Incorrect because punishment creates resentment rather than cooperation. Question 23. While analyzing the root causes of sequential problems in a production line, a company notices recurring defects in manufactured products. What is the best course of action? A. Conduct a root cause analysis, or CA, and implement corrective actions. B. Ignore the defects and focus on increasing production speed. C. Replace all machinery without diagnosing the actual problem. D. Reduce production output to limit defects without addressing the issue. Answer: A. Conduct a root cause analysis, or CA, and implement corrective actions. Explanation: a root cause analysis, or CA, helps identify the underlying problem and allows the company to implement targeted solutions, improving product quality. B is incorrect because ignoring defects leads to customer dissatisfaction. C is incorrect because replacing machinery without a proper diagnosis may be unnecessary and costly. D is incorrect because reducing output does not fix the root issue. Question 24. In a multi-location scenario where consistency requirements are critical, a company struggles with variations in customer service quality. What is the best approach to ensure uniform standards? A. Develop and enforce standardized training and performance metrics. B. Allow each location to operate independently without oversight. C. Reduce services at underperforming locations. D. Rotate staff between locations frequently to balance service quality. Answer A. Develop and enforce standardized training and performance metrics. Explanation. Standardized training and performance metrics ensure that all locations meet the same customer service quality expectations, reducing inconsistencies. B is incorrect because operating independently increases variability in service quality. C is incorrect because reducing services does not address the root problem. D is incorrect because frequent staff rotation disrupt operations and reduce employee familiarity with local customer needs. Question 25. When developing a solution that must address opposing needs of two departments, what is the best strategy to ensure success? A. Facilitate a collaborative discussion to find a mutually beneficial compromise. B. Choose one department's needs over the other. C. Reduce communication between the departments to avoid conflict. D. Implement temporary solution without long-term planning. Answer A. Facilitate a collaborative discussion to find a mutually beneficial compromise. Explanation. A collaborative approach ensures both departments have input in the solution, fostering cooperation and balance. B is incorrect because favoring one department creates internal conflicts. C is incorrect because reducing communication leads to misunderstandings and inefficiencies. D is incorrect because a temporary solution does not address long challenged. Question 26. During a seamless transition where continuity must be maintained, a company is switching to a new enterprise resource planning ERP system. What is the most effective way to ensure a smooth transition? A. Implement the new system in phases while providing ongoing support. B. Shut down all operations until the new system is fully operational. C. Train employees after the transition is complete. D. Switch to the new system without testing to speed up the process. Answer A. Implement the new system in phases while providing ongoing support. Explanation. A phased implementation allows employees to adjust gradually while maintaining business continuity. B is incorrect because shutting down operations causes unnecessary disruptions. C is incorrect because training should happen before and during the transition. D is incorrect because switching without testing increases the risk of failure. Question 27. When scaling up operations that experience significant growing pains, what is the best way to manage this transition? A. Optimize existing processes and expand infrastructure in alignment with growth. B. Increase production without making any process adjustments. C. Reduce customer engagement to focus solely on internal operations. D. Delay scaling until all potential issues are resolved. Answer A. Optimize existing processes and expand infrastructure in alignment with growth. Explanation. Optimizing processes before scaling ensures efficiency and smooth expansion without unnecessary disruptions. B is incorrect because increasing production without process improvements leads to inefficiencies. C is incorrect because reducing customer engagement harms relationships and business reputation. D is incorrect because waiting indefinitely results in lost opportunities. Question 28. In an environment where different components must interact efficiently, a company struggles with software integration between various departments. What is the best approach to resolve this issue? A. Develop a centralized integration framework that standardizes communication. B. Allow each department to use independent systems without integration. C. Replace all software with a single solution immediately. D. Reduce the number of software tools used even if it limits functionality. And so, hey, develop a centralized integration framework that standardizes communication. Explanation. A centralized integration framework allows smooth communication between systems, enhancing efficiency. B is incorrect because independent systems create silos and inefficiencies. C is incorrect because replacing all software can be costly and disruptive. D is incorrect because reducing tools could compromise critical functionality. Question 29. When implementing backup procedures across various locations, what is the most important factor to consider? A. Ensuring redundancy with geographically distributed backups. B. Storing all backups in a single central location. C. Creating backups only when a system failure occurs. D. Restricting backup access to only one department. Answer A. Ensuring redundancy with geographically distributed backups. Explanation. Geographically distributed backups ensure data security and availability in case of localized failures. B is incorrect because a single location creates a single point of failure. C is incorrect because backups should be created proactively. D is incorrect because limiting access can delay recovery efforts. Question 30. While examining inconsistencies across various units, a company identifies differences in how performance data is collected and reported. What is the best solution? A. Establish standardized data collection and reporting procedures. B. Allow each unit to continue using its own reporting methods. C. Remove performance tracking to avoid discrepancies. D. Adjust reporting methods based on unit preferences. Answer A. Establish standardized data collection and reporting procedures. Explanation. Standardized procedures ensure consistency, accuracy, and comparability across units. B is incorrect because inconsistent methods prevent effective analysis. C is incorrect because removing performance tracking eliminates accountability. D is incorrect because adjusting based on preferences maintains inconsistencies.